What's up, everybody? Jackson here to Dead Mellow Brother Chubbz.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to feed the hype machine because, goddamn it, Chubbz, Borderlands 3 looks really good.
Yep.
After their live stream reveal event where they went into showing the siren, and I think it was the spy or agent.
The operative?
The operative, that character. And kind of showed a lot about both of those characters, but today we kind of just want to talk about our impressions with it, what we think. Like, first and foremost, it looks really fun.
Oh yeah.
I have some concerns, and I'm gonna voice those, but I think that people have already voiced them, but in the typical like outrage culture that you see now that's more prevalent with everything, there has to be, especially since they're signed with Epic with the exclusives.
Yeah.
So they're getting like hit unnecessarily
All sorts
hard.
of heat.
They're getting shit flown out. Like, trust me, like Randy Pitchford's fucking ego was bigger than the screen on stage. Like, I get that. And the arrogance and like kind of the fucking like either he's just really awkward or he has a very low opinion of the audience. Because I'll tell you that Zero joke where it showed Zero and it said ironically divides himself a lot or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I know dick about math. You know this, Chubbz. Like, I was like, I know shit about math. Numbers go in and they come out jumbled. But I understood that joke. Like, I laughed.
Yeah, but he even on stage is like, I don't know if you caught that math joke.
We're nerds.
We're kind of fucking nerds.
I love the dude who's like the lead, the actual guy on the floor.
Right.
You know what I mean? The dude is I think he's the creative lead. I can't remember his name. But he's like, oh, they got it. That made me laugh so hard because it's like, I got it. And I am dumb as fuck when it comes to math. Yeah. Like, that's an obvious joke. It's like,
well,
when he like points it out, anyway, they're slinging shit at Randy because he said,
as you can plainly see, we've made a commitment to what Borderlands is supposed to be. We've made a commitment to the story, the style, and the design that our fans have told us loud and clear that they cherish and want us to preserve in Borderlands 3. You know, it's an interesting time in games right now. There's all kinds of people making all kinds of money, doing all kinds of interesting stuff out there. We just love video games. We think video games are supposed to be fun, and we love Borderlands, so we wanted to make sure that we were true to what it is. And if you want to play offline, we've got you. If you want to play online, of course, all the co-op modes you expect are there. Yeah, we're going to do some kick-ass campaign DLC, and I'm sure we're going to do all kinds of fun customizations like heads and skins, but we're not doing any of that free-to-play junk. There's not going to be any microtransactions. There's not going to be any of that nonsense. And if you've played a Borderlands game before, we expect you to feel right at home.
people are slinging shit at him saying he lied because they're going to sell skins. But it's like they sold skins in Borderlands too. This is my concern though. When the opening of the reveal, it opens them at the beginning of the game and there's a quick change. And there seems to be kind of a weird sort of emphasis put on the quick change.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
And it makes
options.
sense because, well, the thing is that, yeah, there's like emotes and things like that, which is fine. I don't care. Like,
sure.
This is the thing. You want to sell extra shit, that's fine. I didn't mind in Borderlands 2. Fuck, I bought some. You know what I mean? I'm not going to mind in this if it's on a scale of that. But another reason I didn't mind in Borderlands 2, because there was a lot that you could unlock organically through doing quests, as quest rewards, random drops.
Like head skins,
as well as
customization.
I mean, recolors, whatever, but give me some.
But there were some that were unique that you could get just through playing the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I felt like as long as that doesn't go away, I don't have a problem. But throughout the reveal, you gotta understand it's 2K, right? And so they're the ones who has put on this event. They're the ones who are behind it. They're putting up money. And so there's this weird, it's awkward in a way when they're doing the gameplay reveal and everything's awesome. But whenever those goddamn quick change comes on, there's this awkward weirdness about it. Like Randy Pitchford points it out and they talk about it. And it's like, I feel like there might be some fucking heavy emphasis on customization options, and the point of that is I don't really care so long as the rest of the game doesn't suffer. If the rest of the game suffers as a cause of the skin and emote game that has become so lucrative for these fucking companies, if the game suffers like it did in the case of Anthem, like it did in the case of Destiny, like it did in the case of a slew of games that we could mention, Overwatch even. Like, I think Overwatch has negatively been impacted by those skins. Because at the end of the day, every piece of content they gave you was delivered around that, you know? New character, yes. New gameplay, yes. But what's it all revolving around? These skins and, you know,
the overall
unlocks.
core mechanic of the gameplay progression.
It all leads you back to the loot box.
Exactly. And so that's another thing to take and consider with Borderlands 3, which is another thing to think about. Because through the reveal, they showed a couple of things like you could buy the backpack and ammo upgrades with the money again, so
yeah, it's kind of rolling back to Borderlands 1 style.
So, but it kind of looked like there was Iridium still. So, what is the
Iridium for?
Yeah, so there could be other mechanics to play in that. So there might be like currency within currency levels. But when he was talking about that, he was talking in direct relation to like. He even specifically said no free to play shit.
Yeah.
Or some to that effect, like nothing free to play.
We're not doing any of that free to play junk. There's not going to be any microtransactions. There's not going to be any of that nonsense.
So you know what I mean? So when I think of that, I'm thinking, okay, so it's not going to be like Neverwinter or something like that, where it's like currencies on top of currencies on top of currencies that eventually leads you to the overall currency that you can buy. Or
if there is a goddamn currency that you can buy, that you can spend with like Iridium, if they make a premium currency, this game can suck my dick.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But I will say this.
As good as everything looks, dude, it's those sorts of things that
can ruin the overall gameplay mechanics.
If you tie that shit up with, like, because whenever you have premium currencies, you also have throwaway that you give players. And that's always trickled out. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that a good game can be ruined by that feeling. Like, for perfect example is Assassin's Creed Oranges.
Yeah.
Where that game felt like it was fun, but that was there. It was present. Shadow of Mordor was more so. Especially in that third act. Where it's like a fun game you're enjoying. You're like, yeah, this ain't too bad. You know, obviously there's issues, but for the most part, you're having a good time. You're enjoying the experience of exploration, all the things that those sorts of games can offer, the combat, shit like that. But there's this sense of feeling like that artificial hand pushing your forehead back, like, slow down, kid, because they want you. Since you can buy these things. And Shadow of War is so weird because it had been, when I played it, it was after they had gutted it and removed them. With the reason knowing that I was going to buy it at that point. I know that that's why. And if you look at how long those things remained in it, it was long enough that they kind of milked what they were going to be able to milk from it. And I'm sure that the misanthropic nature of fucking Monolith and WB aside.
I am suffering. You little butt-like...
I'm sure that those were gutted and pulled because they wanted to capitalize on more sales since the microtransactions people had dwindled. People spending money on that shit had dwindled. And it was this weird case of where that grind existed, but there was no way to surpass it anymore.
Exactly.
But it was still the same grind.
And
so it just felt...
I even brought this up to you one night when we were talking about this very subject, is because, like, if nobody had bought those, then you would have seen that complete overhaul of the mechanics and the gameplay systems. But it warranted enough people buying that they didn't change it enough. Because it still felt the gameplay mechanics and the integrity of those mechanics were compromised because they were tying up this system of which you could either grind hours and hours and hours out or fork over another couple,
pay for
bucks.
the time skip.
Exactly. And
that they call a time skip. But the thing about that is they're organizing the time needed
Well, that's where it ties it in, because that's where you feel the compromise of the integrity of the gameplay
and it's
mechanics.
obvious. And if there's that sort of thing, then especially in a game like Borderlands that is all about the grind
and the loot,
and that, like, if any of that is tied up in that sort of thing, I can see people's apprehension. But if this ends up just being like Borderlands 2, where you got lots of skins, which it's probably going to be, that's the thing. The reason I'm skeptical is because they did premium currency in Battleborn. When it was unnecessary, when they could have just sold a skin pack for $2.99 or whatever it is on Borderlands 2, where you get like the headpiece and the skin. They could have just sold skin for cash, but they did it with microcurrency, and they did it with microcurrency on purpose.
Yep.
Because they always sell it in odd amounts. It's that mindfuck. Well, look, I have fucking this much extra. I could just fucking spend, this much more and get another one.
Yep.
It's seriously there to pill away weaker people and get them to spend money, right? It spawned from the mobile market. You read these horror stories all the time, like kid spends $10,000 in fucking Candy Crush or some shit, right? And it's because of this sort of systems that they've employed, and they've employed it in Battleborn for sure, because they had that platinum currency that you had to buy in order to get the skins. And even though it was that you were buying what you pick, you know what I mean?
Right.
So in that aspect, it's more fair.
Grindy.
It's still, if you want it, well, before they even made that a thing, you couldn't even earn that microcurrency in game. It was, you had to buy it with cash.
Yeah.
Which is like, here's the thing. In a game like Borderlands 2, I'm not really complaining about that, because I'm earning them in-game. I have a selection of ones that I can pick in-game. I have a selection of skins and colors that I can pick that I've earned in-game.
In-game currency that I have to buy and then go to a separate shop in-game.
To unlock it in order to fucking, like, if that's, I don't know if that's the way it's gonna be, but it's situations like this this, like, dumbass commenter, I'm talking about the Borderlands 3 reveal trailer. Remember that video? Right. Some dumbass in the comments is like, why the fuck are we talking about Battleborn? I don't know, dumbass. Maybe because the people who published and developed that game are publishing and developing this game?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it's relevant, dumb shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I didn't even reply. Like, I'm not going to even reply to that question.
You don't understand why these two
you're a
topics
moron.
are relevant?
You stumbled onto the wrong channel.
Yes.
Goodbye now. Idiot. Anyway, that's why I bring up Battleborn a lot. Because that experience, I remember that experience, and I remember feeling about Borderlands 3 when I heard they announced it. I remember feeling like a lot of resources had been funneled from Battleborn into Borderlands 3. They've done it before. They did it with Borderlands 2, with the Alien Colonial Marines and other things, where they siphoned off money, did cut corners on other projects in order to funnel it into Borderlands 3. Or Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, it makes sense that Battleborn released in the state it did. And that's sad, because they really had something special there. And I felt like a Hail Mary was called when they find out that Anthem, all of these games are coming that are the shooter-looter. They're the original one. They see sales on Borderlands 2. They see sales on the Handsome Jack collection. Then they release Battleborn. You know what I mean? And I think this occurred before Battleborn even had released. I think that people had been pulled off of it way earlier. You know what I mean?
In preparation for the newest game, yeah.
And the thing about that is, I wouldn't even have really had a problem with that. If that game had shipped in winter update state, like if that had been the product I'd got day one, I wouldn't have had as many hard feelings about Gearbox with that product. Like that, it wouldn't have been. But it was, corners were cut, the product suffered. I, as a day one buyer, got a fucking lesser experience. And then to add insult to injury, you spit in my eye when you call me a fucking founder after you've sold me a AAA titled game that it was not ever were mentioned the words early access, never were mentioned early adopter. You don't get to call me a fucking founder. Okay? And that's that bullshit where these game companies take every fucking catchy phrase and fucking word. MMO looter shooter fucking sandbox fucking, you know?
Souls like. Yeah. It's everything on the market.
Fucking hell, dude. But that's the thing. That's why we talk about Battleborn. Because when I see that and then I see this weird, awkward emphasis put on the quick change by the, you know, I mean, it's rehearsed.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
acting like it's not rehearsed,
They're
but
acting
it's
like
rehearsed.
it's not rehearsed. But there's another thing is he's like, as soon as he saw the golden chest in the city, Randy Pitchford was like, ignore the golden chest. It's like,
Yeah.
why?
Well, I think, that's, the golden chest would just be the chest that you get for
Right.
shift codes.
But still, like, why would you want to, like, point that, like, is that such, like, an ominous thing? Like,
No.
It's bad. Ignore
No,
it.
he's
like,
just saying, like, it's because that's one of the things you usually do. You usually, when you go back to the sanctuary, you go straight to the golden chest, you crack it open, you know, you've gained a few levels, you use a key
Right.
to get some guns to level up faster.
But still, it's like, why not?
Either way, Randy Pitchford was weird as fuck this whole time.
He's a fucking weird guy.
He's a fucking weirdo,
He's a fucking
dude.
weird guy.
He's a weirdo.
He even had like that cheap shot anthem. I don't know if it is or not. That's totally what I thought it was.
It was.
When
And
he opens the locker
liked
and he's
all
like,
that, though.
by the way, you can equip this on the fly. Like it's like such a feat
Like,
of
of course you can.
Of course you
yeah.
can equip this immediately.
It was
You
a
know what I
burning
mean?
anthem. And you know what else I really liked? I liked the emphasis he put on saying, repeatedly, he was saying, we invented the shooter looter genre.
Mm-hmm.
When we, you know, and it's like, this wasn't even a name that was used for them. I think Destiny was the first time I ever heard that name applied.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, Borderlands was there
The-
way before all these companies decided we need to sniff this ass and all do this same thing, but do it poorly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Anthem is fucking inexcusable, dude.
Yeah, dude.
It is inexcusable. The amount of money they had, the amount of time they had to develop that fucking thing. That is fucking excusable, dude. It's fucking like,
in development before Destiny. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
and then when you consider that was their A team, right? Because that was the
Yeah.
excuse given for Andromeda.
But they weren't there.
This is like
They
not
weren't
their
there.
A team.
They
dude.
weren't there in the office. They weren't there, Gene. They were too stressed out. They were gone for 4 months on vacation to Florida because they were stressed out, and their doctor said, "You need a pina colada on the beach. You need to get out."
Listen, you're stressed out for making this horrendous pile of dog shit. Take a few months.
Take a few months.
So here's the thing though. Back to Borderlands 3. It looks really fun.
It does.
Like the
And
gunplay
this
and,
reveal
stuff
did its
showing
trick.
yeah.
It kind of got me. I was like,
Oh, it got me
immediately.
hyped, dude.
It doesn't matter. Like, I immediately know I'm going to enjoy it because the
Yeah.
number one best thing about Borderlands 2, if you go back and think about it, is the progression and the gear. And in this, they amped up the elements of both those systems.
This whole, what I really love, number one top thing I loved the most about this trailer was the instance loot and the enemy scaling.
Yeah.
Where you and I could, like, say I wasn't able to play, but you were like, I'm gonna keep playing, dude. Which normally that's a problem, because then you're gonna out-level me, you're gonna come back, and it's gonna be boring for both of us.
Yeah, it's pretty much me dragging
Yeah,
you up.
and you're killing everything, and it's easy for you to kill it, and I'm not having to kill everything, and it's easy for me to move from point A to B.
Yeah.
And so, with this sort of system being employed, you can continue and level up, and when you come back into my game at a higher level, like say I'm level 5, you come back at level 12, everything in my game is level 12 to you, and level 5 to me, which is brilliant. That is something. What else was that in? They've added that in something recently that we played, and I cannot think about it. It's kind of like the way Dark Souls and Bloodborne do it with the password system, where it scales you down, but
I can't
not
remember.
really.
I can't remember. This is something that was crazy though, because
It's a good idea.
yeah,
That's a huge problem when you're playing Borderlands with friends and family, is like when you want to keep playing but they can't, and so they can't play. Yeah,
vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they may have some time later when you're not able to, and then they can't because they have to wait for you, and it's kind of like you gotta wait for each other. Where this is like we can just get on and it sounds really good.
Oh yeah,
it sounds like,
and then the instance loot, it was like a direct response to ninja looters. So like for people who do hop on and farm online, because you get a higher chance of loot with more people in the party. So it's smart, like for example, Borderlands 2, to go back and kill Wilhelm, I think his name was. Because that's one of those high end game bosses. You have full party, the chances of legendaries dropping are insane. But then
you get
there's always
asshole.
that one asshole who's like, oh, I'm going to take it all, leave, and then I'm going to fucking, and that shit just bothers
you. They just bounce, and there's still like ads. You're cleaning up ads, and then you realize what happened when there's no loot, and you're like, cool.
Yeah, this was pointless. Thanks.
Yeah.
Fucking God.
So that's awesome too, because it'll also be level appropriate. So if you're level 17 whatever and you're in my game, then the gear that drops for you is going to be level 17
scale
gear
to the respective level.
So and that's another huge thing about Borderlands is the co-op play is a huge reason that Borderlands is as big as it is.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like what you were saying, where they amped up the progression system and the gear, they also amped up that aspect where they're going to make it easier to co-op, not as in that sense restrictive.
Right. It's going to be a lot more open and friendly for just like playing by yourself, as well as hopping in with your friends.
Tons of loot for everyone that I'm sure you'll be able to trade. You'll be able to throw on the ground and give to your buddies.
Exactly.
Because they've never been shy about player-to-player trading.
Oh yeah, but then on top of that, the gun has the alternate fire mode, which adds a whole other layer of depth to the gunplay.
So instead of at a certain point, if it's 4 slots still for your guns, if they all have that alternate fire mode, then you actually have 8 guns.
Yep.
He said something about having a chain gun that can shoot missiles on alternate fire. So like those sorts of things is really what gets you grinning and going like, oh man, I want. And then you see the actual play. They're playing the siren, which is Jeff's fucking main, and he's like a melee. He was excited because he had heard it was like a melee focused build. And then you see her, and she has the ground slam, like Titan ground pound, dude. And it's like, fuck yeah, dude. And then not only that, what I like about it is instead of just one skill that you can kind of
build off of,
and morph with through the trees, like you can kind of you can customize your super through the skill trees, and all 3 skill trees kind of customize it in a different way.
Right, but
for instance, like the soldier, he can have his with slag missiles. He can have it with
for example,
a shield.
The super doesn't change in the basic aspect that it is just a turret.
It is the turret, yes. It's just tweaked in certain ways through the skill tree. But this, it looks like instead of that, each skill tree has an accompanying skill. So while one of the skill trees for, I think, what was her name? I can't remember her name.
The siren.
Siren
I can't remember. I can't remember the operative's name either. It was some weird name.
But her skill tree that they were using and showcasing was the ground pound. And it looked fun as hell.
Oh, yeah.
And they added a slide. So you can slide now into cover. They added
environmental damage.
Yeah.
So there were barrels in all of the games, but in this it looks like you'll actually be able to melee them and knock them over
and hit
ledges.
Them over.
Or hit them
because
into the enemy.
You could always hit them, but all it would do is kind of trigger them. And then you'd have to run away from them.
Yeah, in this it'll actually force them to move.
Yeah, like he was kicking that barrel. Don't tell me that shit wasn't
There was an instance where he shot the oil.
Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that was live, but that dude had been fucking doing that all weekend. All week before he did that shit. Yeah.
There were certain things that looked way too smooth, like how he shot the oil out of the pipe, and as he pushed the explosive barrel, and then he shot the barrel, and it just lit the entire oil on fire.
Like, don't get me wrong, I got you that it's live and they're doing it right there, but they practice.
They've been doing it for a while.
But the game, speaking of that, the game looks really clean.
Oh yeah.
It looks brought forth. It has that Gearbox style or the Borderlands style, but it looks more defined. Like the first thing I noticed is from the very start how it kind of pans up from the dirt.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that dirt really looks impressive.
The graphics, yeah.
And then
and because it's their own style, it's like minimalistic, but because of today's technology, they're able to add all sorts of definition and really refine it.
Yeah.
And it still is cost efficient, which is what I love. This shit is awesome. You don't have to like make it crazy realistic.
There's that mirror that's like the mural.
Yeah.
Of the twins, the new baddies.
Yeah, dude.
And that mural was so cool with like all those guys that were like stuck in that position. You later find out through the reveal that she had like sucked dry.
Yeah.
Like and then they get to Sanctuary, and that was what I was so curious about from the reveal was it said save the worlds. And so we were curious what that meant. We found out in this the Sanctuary is a spaceship, and you direct it kind of like Mass Effect, and you go into orbit of the different worlds, and those will be unlocked later as you go and go and go. And this is just another way that they've amped it up, because it's always been Pandora. The pre-sequel took place on Pandora's moon, but it's always been localized to Pandora, you know what I mean? And this, it will start you on Pandora, so it will feel familiar, but then they're going to let you travel to other planets. And he said it's the biggest Borderlands game we have done. So that's going to tell me, even if it's just a little bit bigger than Borderlands 2, I'm on board.
Oh, yeah.
Like straight up, even just a little bit bigger.
Oh yeah.
I'm fine with it. Because Borderlands 2 is huge, and its replayability, and here's the thing about DLC. If the DLC are as expansive as that too, I'll buy them too.
Right.
If the skins are unique and I play in it a lot and they're under $5 for, one of them, I might buy that too. Right? It's because this is the perfect example to point at those sorts of systems. If they don't fuck around with the microcurrency, if they don't fuck around with basically, here's what I would hate to see when it comes to the emotes and the skins and the head slots, all that stuff when it comes to Borderlands 3. It will break my heart if they put in a microcurrency and tie it up in that. It'll break my heart if it feels like you have to grind for that microcurrency to get any of those for free, or just throw them some money. Or if you can only buy them and there's none that you can find in game. If they do that, then this Randy Pitchford talking shit on Anthem is going to feel pretty dated.
Yeah, it's going to feel like a lot of fucking hot air.
Yeah, which wouldn't be surprising coming from Randy Pitchford.
And not surprising at all, seeing how many people are full of fucking hot air.
Nowadays, yeah. But overall, man, I'm excited to play it. I like the idea that operative, he has 2 skills he can use.
Yep.
So he gets
and
2
he looks
skills.
like a mesh, kind of like he's got the digiclone, so he's more of like a stealth operative who can teleport, but he also has a barrier, so he has kind of the a shield, and then on top of that he has the the drone that shoots.
Yeah,
and so it's
basically like Wilhelm's drone or Mordecai's Bloodwing.
Bloodwing. And so that's the thing, is so they've taken these characters and it looks like they've added multiple different roles within each character that exist from previous games. And because of how he was talking about the multiple different ways to build each character, he even stated that 2 people could play the same character and still have a vastly different role to play throughout the game. Yeah.
So I hope they add some more mechanical depth to the encounters.
Right.
Where it's less in the harder difficulties, less of a strategic cover shooter mixed with a kind of if you're gonna go down, die next to something weakened.
Right.
I'd like to see more play with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like with just the movement they've added with the slide, it's already going to add more complexity and fun to that aspect anyway, even if it does boil down to a cover shooter. At least now you can run from cover to cover and slide, or even slide out in the open and possibly avoid damage that way.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be able to see how effective that slide is at avoiding damage when enemies are shooting you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely interested, definitely still apprehensive. Don't really, I mean, I'm definitely interested.
Oh, yeah.
Like, way interested. It looks really fun. I wish I could play it right now.
As of right now, I'm on board.
Yeah,
but
I am too.
If there's microtransactions or something,
I still
that will
feel like
fuck it
even
up.
if that is the case, I'm still going to be okay with it, and I'll probably still get it. I
Realistically,
mean, I'm not going to be okay with it. I'm telling you,
Well,
it's going to fucking be like Jesus.
Realistically, though, the thing is as it stands right now, I'm on board. I will want to get it day one. But realistically, if there is something that will show up in the game that will creep out and like kind of ruin the experience, it's going to be revealed throughout the entirety, because you got to keep in mind we're still
Here's
4
what I
months
think,
away.
unless, well,
they're going to reveal a lot more.
Yeah, and here's the thing, unless they, what do you call it when they, I can't remember, what, embargo? Unless they embargo the game to reviewers and like don't give out codes and don't, which would be a bad move. These are
Right.
bad moves. You can usually, it's kind of compelling. I mean, I remember when it first happened, I said, I was like, it's kind of surprising, but I still don't care. Like, I feel like it's fucked up to them to do it, but I understand why they do it.
Right.
Because with Bethesda, their games are buggy as shit. And so, like, when they first started their review embargo, like, I was just kind of like, I don't know. Like, it sucks, but, like, I'm not ever buying a Bethesda product day one ever fucking again, ever fucking again, ever fucking again.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter to me. I'll eventually get to see a review months after the game comes out.
See if it's worth it.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, and so, but then you see Fallout 76 and you're like, that's why you kind of saw that and knew it wasn't going to be ready and realized it was going to be a steaming pile of dog shit. And if you let out fucking early review copies, then people are going to warn their viewers, just like they did with Anthem. Like, that's what happened with Anthem. Like, GG Man was telling people to refund it. Angry Joe was telling people to refund it. Like, so unless they do something like that, like, before day one, we'll be able to see enough stuff to realize if that's going to be a problem.
Right.
Like, that will be something that people put out there, especially considering the scrutiny they're under for being Epic's bitch boys, apparently. And also because, and they're already slinging shit at Randy. So if it makes it easier to sling shit at Randy, then they'll find out about it and we'll know about it.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be plastered on my fucking YouTube page. Some clickbaity shit from PC Gamer or one of those other fucking hacks that have 1 in a million good articles. Anyway, those are our thoughts on Borderlands 3 gameplay reveal.
The live stream reveal.
Looks
of the
really
newest.
good. Looks fun. Looks entertaining. Looks like a damn good time. Something I'm definitely into. I love the Borderlands games, dude.
Oh yeah, me too.
They're a good fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them, and they've been tried and true with not being that. And you know, I'd love to see that repeat itself with Borderlands. The DLC that they build and add on to it, that they sell for reasonable prices, that adds a lot of replayability to the game.
Some cases,
I'd much rather see
Borderlands
that.
2 more classes. You know.
Well, it's like with Battleborn, they did that, but it was on such a smaller scale. The ops were truly worth it. It made playing the game fun again for a little while. But when you compare it to like the Borderlands 2 DLCs, like Tiny Tina's, you know, her D&D game on,
Right.
like those, they're just huge. They're funny, they're fun, they're a good time, they're unique from anything else in the game. Like, it feels like you're in a new area. And so, like, if they can deliver stuff like that, I mean, sell me a planet for $20, dude. You know, sell me a new zone for $30, dude. Like, if it's big enough, sell a couple of new characters for $15 a piece.
Couple new classes, which I'm sure they're going to do.
Yeah, just don't do this shit where you let them tell you that you need to tie up all of the cosmetics in bullshit microcurrency or some bullshit grind. Like, don't do that, dude. I mean, if you gotta sell some of them, that's fine. I understand that. And it's fine. Like, it doesn't bother me. As long as there's at least a handful that I can earn through playing the game through. If there's a handful that I can make my guy feel like I'm unique to the group of friends I'm playing with, you know, and find a look that I'm okay with, I'm cool with it. And that's the way it was. And I bought the one for Axton, the one with the spikes all over his head and the wicked Joker grin.
Yeah.
Because I love that Joker grin, dude. And he kind of looked like Pinhead a little bit. And I'm like, fuck it. I got like a few extra bucks on my Steam account. Why not?
Yeah.
From selling fucking collectible cards. Jesus. Anyway.
Which is a whole other rabbit hole.
Talk y'all later. Fucking love ya.
See you guys.